I want to welcome you to our first episode of Streetbeefs Live. My name is Daniel. I am the host of this show and creator of Heart in the Fight. This show is being virtually produced by my esteemed colleague, Tunde. When he is not producing this show, you can catch him gaming and debating anime on the Twitch channel. So now, what you're witnessing at this point is the co-created show between Streetbeefs and Heart in the Fight. We are where we invite Streetbeefs branch leaders and fighters after a fight event to provide us with their reflections and their insights on what transpired throughout the day and what they learned and will employ at the next event. So before we jump into the show, I want to remind you to like this video, follow Streetbeefs and their affiliates on Facebook, TikTok, Twitch, Instagram, and certainly subscribe to the YouTube channel to get access to future content. Today, you're here because there was a massive event yesterday at the OG Yard in Virginia, where the headliner, Shinigami, and the West Coast, who's the West Coast heavyweight champion, faced off against the East Coast heavyweight champion, Big Smile. In addition to that match, the first round of the MMA lightweight tournament took place for the vacant lightweight championship belt that Rico left behind. From just that alone, you already know that there was tons of action, lots of storylines, and we have brought some folks on the show who were there and can give us some of their thoughts. And I want to thank you for joining us and welcome you to the first episode on Streetbeefs Live.
Fight! Got us a title fight.
I want to welcome the viral sensation, the head kick heard around the world, the ever-evolving legend, the West Coast heavyweight champion, Shinigami, to the show. How you doing, my man?
Great, man. Thanks for having me. Aside from being tired because it was such a long event, I feel actually absolutely 100% fine.
Well, that's good to hear. And so I know that you have dreamed about fighting in the OG Yard since 2010. So that's about 11 years ago. So for 11 years, you've been dreaming about being able to fight at the OG Yard. So without getting into the fight itself, tell us what that experience was like.
Oh man, it was like going to a West Coast event kind of times 100, like after the first time, where everyone was like, "Oh my God, it's Shinigami!" Except I was like, "Oh my God, it's Pitbull Matthews! Oh my God, it's Beach! Oh my God, it's Iraqi Assassin! Woo!" Like, I'm like, man, I don't know why you guys are excited to see me. I'm just some nobody from the other side of the country. But y'all have been like doing this for forever, dude. You guys are the OGs. I've been watching you guys for like ever. Man, I got to be in with Demon Monsoon and was it Papa Bear? It was wild, man. It was really wild. I even got to go to Neutral Corner the night before the fight and, warm up and get a little loose and, meet Coach Bang Time and just check out everything over there. It was an amazing experience. And hopefully someday I get to come back out here, even if it's just to help run things or something, but it was amazing. They even let me ref one. It was great.
I can imagine. How different is it in that environment, compared to the other Streetbeefs events that you've been to in the past?
People-wise, it's about the same. Sorry, this TV starting to do weird staticky stuff when I turned off. Like, everyone's super nice. Everyone's super cool. It was actually... Oh, and there was some things that happened that's only ever going to happen in Streetbeefs. After me and Big Smile fought, he was helping Black Goku warm up for his fight, and I gave Black Goku a tip on how to make one of his kicks better. And then No, I guess that's a neighbor's TV. Okay. Or they're some, I don't know, something's on staticky. Sorry about that. Anyway, Big Smile was, at first it was funny too, because I slipped in the mud because it's muddy everywhere outside the cage. The cage inside was great. Floor was perfect. But then he was cornering Black Goku and he had to leave because it was his anniversary. And him and his wife's parents were waiting for him to go do something. So that fight ended up going into an overtime round. So only in Street Beefs are you going to get the two coastal champions cornering, helping one guy in the corner. And then I took over after Big Smile left to help corner him. It was crazy. That was awesome. Like I said, it's just Street Beefs is Street Beefs everywhere. I think it's a bunch of really friendly people that are here to, compete, settle beefs, and just be supportive of each other, watch each other fight. And it was just amazing. Weather-wise, it was about like a winter day in the high desert in January, which is crazy because it's March. Like after it got dark, though, it was like super, super cold. But other than that, man, I loved it. It was great. Really beautiful scenery, really nice, fresh, clean air because it's wooded, so the wood filters out all the smog and stuff. It was great, man. It was great.
And how was the cage? I know from the looks of things, it looks like it's certainly bigger than the West Coast cage that they have in Vegas. But how much bigger is it?
Significantly bigger. It's I think it's almost full like UFC regulation full size. It was big. It was pretty flipping big. Definitely a lot more room to work. Funny thing is, I think we broke the cage a little bit because the visitor side door wasn't quite behaving right after that first time Big Smile pushed me up against the cage there.
And then it's also, what about the crowd? Because when I watched it live, like it was really, really loud. Even the first West Coast, and I feel like the second West Coast event was just as loud. And so I'm curious, with that much more space, could you hear a lot? Like, can you hear the crowd more or less?
You know what? When I fight or compete, like even if I'm just doing katas at a tournament, I have this thing. Like it's a little different. Like I was mostly listening for my coach's voice. Was the only voice I was trying to hear. Everything else is just either white noise or I just don't hear it at all when I'm actually fighting. So, the only voices I really listen to are like the ref's voice, my corner's voice, and that's about it. So it was definitely loud, but it didn't really register. I didn't hear what anyone was really saying or anything. But I think the crowd definitely won the fight. I think the crowd is who really won. Everyone watching won that fight.
Yeah, I agree. I certainly agree. And so, without surprise, it seems like there's controversy that normally follows really big headlining matches. And so, your match, after it was all done, there was some controversy. So we'll actually kind of break down round from round what happened, and kind of address some of the controversy from your perspective, right? And so we're not asking you to give us a perspective of someone else, but your perspective of what happened, so that we can clear the air on your end. Right? Sound good?
Yeah.
All right. So round one. Before you even get to round one, the intro, like it wasn't as long, I think, as it was Street Beefs West Coast 3. Yeah. But right. And so I know intros are an art. Tunde loves intros. And so I'm curious for you, like what was going through your mind as you were introing? Because you certainly said a lot in your intro, but you could have said more or you could have said less. And so I'm curious.
I don't even think you said I didn't even say that much, but I kind of had these pauses going because I was trying to stay, like, I knew this fight was going to be the most intense fight I was going to ever do. I've seen Big Smile's face. I've seen his eyes. I've seen how we looked at each other during the press conference. I've seen how he gets when he's in the cage. So I was trying to stay in that, like, I'm in war mode for real. There's like super like on another level than I haven't had to be before because I knew I had to be there. And usually when I'm giving all the shout outs and stuff, I'm like, a little more But I was definitely kind of a little more jovial all the other times I've done shout outs at the beginning of stuff. So I was trying to focus on what I wanted to say and not break eye contact and still stay in that focus.
No, it certainly it looked like it from the looks of things. There was an intensity to your intro in ways that I haven't seen that in the past, but also it was an opportunity, like you said, to really shout out those who supported you through this entire process. But then, you had to give them I think the old call out, shout out to Rachel, which was, I think, awesome, right? So
it's kind of my good luck charm, man. I noticed that the only time I ever really, really had a problem, she was there, but I didn't shout her out. Really, I didn't say the line. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not normally superstitious, but I think every athlete kind of has some kind of good luck charm that they feel they have, whether they're superstitious anywhere else or not. And I kind of feel like that's kind of become mine. So I had to throw it on the end, especially with, and it's actually kind of funny because especially after the Pat McAfee show, it's even worse now. But that's all anybody shows up and posts anymore on my videos. And I mean, I got other comments too, but like the most common thing, especially on the Streetbeefs fight, there's more people that show up and say shout out Rachel than anything else. It's even more common than Beverly Hills Ninja now. It's wild.
But it's awesome. But Rachel must love that, right? So knowing that she's being acknowledged.
You should see the look she gets on her face every time she hears it.
Awesome. Well, we know that after that was done, you two were squared off and they said fight, right? And so off the bat, you throw your jab, he slips your jab, and he drives you into the cage, right? And so at that point, what are your thoughts, right? I know before we talked about trying to be aware of his grappling, but
I was definitely aware of it.
He closed that. Yeah, go ahead.
I knew he was going to do it. I was actually, not concerned about it though, because I trained for it. I specifically trained for that because he's a big dude. And that's his main thing. And when you get good at something, especially when you do it every single fight, and you have the confidence that that's going to work every single fight, you're going to do it every single fight. I knew it was coming. So he basically did exactly what. The only thing that happened that I didn't think was going to happen was I thought I was going to manage to break my leg free when I turned away, like circled away from the cage. When I was trying to reverse him into it, which, he got a takedown, but I was able to scramble, which I don't think he was expecting either.
Yeah, I saw that you swept him. You swept him once you hit the ground, or as you were hitting the ground, you swept him.
First thing on what happened with the ground at the beginning, so I didn't really sweep him. What happened was I was actually trying to finish the omoplata, and he flipped his leg over trying to escape it, and I just managed to scramble into his open guard instead of letting him mount me. And then I was trying to do a standing ankle lock, which is something you don't see very often, but it's something I've been doing for a while. And I made a mistake and put my feet square and gave him the Ashigurumi sweep. I just gave it up. And like he said during the pre-fight interview, and it's the reality of fighting, whoever slips up first or whoever makes a slip up is going to pay for it. And I paid for it. He got the mount, and I had to try to work my way out of there.
Yeah. And so before we even get to that far into the fight in terms of the mount, why go into the standing foot lock? Why not continue to be in the guard? Continue, because you had top position. You had dominant position.
I think, and I don't want anyone to take this the wrong way, so I want to preface this by saying what I'm going to say now does not mean I do not respect his skills anymore. But there is such a thing. There's levels. You either don't respect your opponent's skills, you respect your opponent's skills, and it's even possible to respect your opponent's skills too much. Knowing that he's a blue belt and knowing that he's got a ground game. When I was in his open guard, and this is one of those things you're going to have to look. But if you look carefully, my left arm was inside and my right arm was outside. And he didn't really do anything yet. And I didn't really do anything yet because I was just like, okay, is he setting up? Because I was keeping my arm pinched over here because I thought he was trying to set up a triangle choke. And those are hard to get out of once they're locked in. And I didn't want to deal with that. So I'm just sitting there trying to figure out, is he baiting me? Should I try to smash pass? He's leaving his legs up. Let me just lock his leg because he's more of a wrestler, even though he's got a blue belt. He seems to be fighting more like a wrestler, and wrestlers are famous for leaving their legs up for leg locks. So I try to do the more sneakier standing one that nobody expects because nobody really does it because it's one of those things where it's not supposed to work, but if you figure out how to do it, it works pretty frequently, but it's kind of also high risk if you put your feet in the wrong place, which I did. So I definitely, looking back at it, I should have just trusted my instincts and smash pass, but I think I would there was a few points in the fight where I over respected his skills and didn't capitalize when I should have because I thought he was baiting me into something.
Yeah, it certainly seemed like it was an unwarranted risk, right? Because at that time, as we're watching, like you said, there wasn't much happening, but I did see that you did punch him a few times to the side. And so it was like you weren't allowing things to kind of unfold. And so you were forcing the action. And as a result, right, as a consequence, you end up on your back. Right. As a consequence, you're on your back. Yeah. And now he's on top. And so what are your thoughts going now that he's on top? And when he gets on top, like he is welling immediately. Like he's not waiting to set up anything. Like soon as he gets on top.
I knew that. I knew as soon as I was already going down from the Ashigurumi sweep, I was like, okay, here comes the ground and pound. Let's see how hard he actually hits. Because when you're watching
how
a fight,
hard does he hit?
not as hard as a lot less hard than I was expecting. In fact, it really wasn't that bad at all. So I don't know if that's just, and that could be for multiple reasons. It could be because he, even though he's in that war mode, we all know we're not in there getting paid. And he knows that usually he can finish it real quick with a TKO doing that because most people just crumble when he starts wailing on them instead of trying to move. Or it could just be because he just doesn't throw hard power shots like I've been hit with before. One of the guys I train with, he just got his jiu-jitsu black belt a couple months ago. He's Russian, and that dude is crazy strong, and he don't play around. Those Russians, the two kinds of people you want to train with if you ever want to learn how to deal with power shots are Russians and Brazilians because they don't give a crap. They will wail on you even though it's supposed to be training. They go hard. And then when it's actually kind of funny because if he hits you too hard and you're like, I didn't want to get hit that hard, and you're like, whoa, okay, stop. He's like, what does that do? This is nothing. But so I don't know if it's just because I'm used to getting hit harder. He's trying to be nice because it is what it is. And he's just trying to get that finish by volume more than power, or if he just doesn't have the power. I'm not going to really conjecture past that. But yeah, that's what it was. When I was going in, I expected him to hit harder and not be as strong in the arms grappling as he was. When he ended up being stronger than I expected him to be. Not as strong as Phil, not as strong as my training partner for it, but he was definitely stronger than I expected him to be, which is why I was able to hold my leg so long at the beginning, because he got it in a position where normally I would have tried to get it out sooner if I would have realized how strong he actually was, or thought he was stronger than, was as strong as he actually was. But yeah, that's kind of where we ended up, and it wasn't anywhere near as bad as I thought it was going to be. So that's why I was kind of starting to squirm and fight back. I think I fought back a little more than he's used to dealing with on the ground too, because if you notice, most of the guys he's fought, when they're on their backs, they kind of just cover up, whereas I was trying to control his posture and hit back and survive so that I wouldn't get, TKO'd. And I think I know that's going to be the next thing you're going to ask about.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So the next thing is, right, is that while he is certainly moving in different positions. He's hammer fisting you. And at one point he's kneeing you to the side, and then you hear someone yell out, "You have 30 seconds."
Yeah.
Right. And it's really difficult. I mean, it's hard from an observer. From an observer, you can think back. Okay, that didn't feel like 30 seconds. It seemed like it stopped earlier than 30 seconds. And so at that time, when they jumped in, right, when the referee jumped in, did you think he had won the fight? Do you think they had stopped it because of his strikes?
I wondered what was going on, because I know they weren't going to stop. I know they know enough to know that I wasn't in trouble. Like, he only hit me with like 3 or 4 knees. And there's like an amount of strikes that you have to be hit with unintelligently defended, before they'll call it. And every time you change a position, it kind of resets the count. That's just the rules of MMA. So it's not like how many total shots you get hit with on the ground. It's how many shots you get hit with in one position. It's supposed to be like 16. And they have to either be unintelligently defended or actually land like unstopped. And I was wondering what was going on, because I'm like, he only hit me with like 3 knees. There's no way they're calling a TKO right now. It definitely was like 15 seconds before the round was over. But I guess Wolverine, Corey Walsh, thought that the time was up because it was loud, and somebody told me afterwards that they were standing around someone who had yelled that the round was over. So, I mean, even Face said, it was so loud, things were intense, things were going on. Time moves different when you're in there too. When you're reffing, when you're fighting, it feels different when you're in there. So there was confusion about that being the end of the round, which that was the whole thing. The ref was saying that it was the end of the round. Okay,
so when were you notified that was the end of the round, but not the end of the fight? Did that happen as soon as you got
a couple seconds later?
Okay.
A couple seconds later, like right about the time that Big Smile started celebrating, like he started running around the cage, and I was like, "What, really?" Wolverine was like, "That's just round, guys," because he said that's it, but he meant that's round. Like, because I do that too. When I'll say, like, if because you've seen me ref on a couple of fights so far, I say break, right? And that's also something a lot of refs say at the end of a fight too. Sometimes usually they'll say, round, stops, round, whatever. He used a choice of words that was a little more ambiguous than it should have been. And again, Face made a statement about it, and he's made statements about it before. These aren't professional officials. This is a backyard fight club, and mistakes are going to happen, and it is what it is. You can't, complain about it too much. Things happen. The fight continued. That's the main thing that matters. Is the fight continued. We got a draw, and we're supposed to run it back.
No, we certainly hear that. But thanks for the clarification, because there is some controversy over it, right? There is some back and forth. I don't know if you looked at any of the comments on YouTube or looked at under the fight, but certainly people are certainly identifying that part, right? Is that it looked like it was over because, Corey stepped in 15 seconds early. And so I'm glad that you were able to clear it on your end. We'll certainly talk to Big Smile about that as well. But going into the second round, what were your thoughts now, right? At this point, it physically looked like Big Smile was spent from his celebration. Like, he spent so much energy in his celebration that he had nothing in the second round.
I don't think he was spent from the celebration. I am not easy to grapple like that. And that was kind of the thing was, I worked on pacing. I worked on dealing with that cage work. I had worked on dealing with that pressure against the cage because I knew that's what he was going to do. And I worked on not getting taken down the whole training camp. So I knew that was going to wear him out. I didn't know it was going to be 3 rounds until we got there. And, even though they said it, I kind of was just sticking to the game plan of try to not get taken down, break if you can, which being as strong as he was and as close as he was and as used to shooting as he was, I didn't really get to implement the break and strike, work him up against the cage with the strikes part of the game plan because he was just really good at keeping control. The short elbows inside was where I did manage to do that. We were elbowing each other back and forth. But like I felt like watching all of his videos that even though he says he has cardio, his cardio wasn't as good as he says or as everyone thought. Because I noticed every time, even when he won in the first round, I don't even think it's just from celebrating. He tends to blow his load on that ground and pound. Like that takes a lot of energy to punch that high volume, even if it's not powerful, or as powerful as it could be. So yeah, I mean, I was trying to gas him out as much as possible, and then he was gassed. He looked like he was pretty gassed in round 3, which is why I threw that kick. That I know we're on round 2 right now, so we'll get into that in a second. But my whole thing was just try to work the game plan and not get taken down, and absolutely try to take him to the third round because, well, I mean, you were there. We talked about that in the pre-fight interview. He'd never been in round 3. I've been in round 3 twice, and it was where I wanted to take it if I didn't finish the first round, So that was just my thing, was try to drag it to the third round because I knew it would be or at least I had thought it was going to be a different game in round 3, and it almost was. I was waiting for him to throw those hands standing up that he throws at everybody else. It was an interesting match, though. It was an interesting match. I think the whole thing was, though, he didn't want to risk getting set up with that kick because obviously throwing it just to throw it is one thing. Sneaking it on the end of a combo is way more devastating than just throwing it and landing it. I mean, as a Hail Mary, which I kind of tried to do. I guess I misjudged the range, though. I felt like I hit him more with the lower shin, but I guess I hit him more with the foot. But again, that's round 3. We'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, round 2, pretty much I just stuck to the game plan of don't get taken down, try to reverse him against the cage, work the short elbows, try to get range so at least I can try to punch him more, and then just drag it into round 3 where he's never been before.
Yeah, it seemed like your prediction was actually about to come true, right? And so you said it was either going to be round 1 or round 3. The fight was going to be determined by those 2 metrics. And so, but it almost did the reverse, right? And so he almost ended it in round 1, and then you were able to take him in round 3. And one of the things you said was he's never been past round 1. And so I would love to see what he looks like in the deeper rounds. And so certainly in the second round, he seemed tired. And it seemed like you were starting to set up your offense more, especially seeing a lot of those short elbows in the clinch. I also saw that you were kicking his legs. And so there was a lot of things that you were setting up in round 2. And so, from my estimation, I gave him round 1. I gave you round 2. So going into round 3, did you think that was the scorecard?
Yeah, I definitely felt like it was a scorecard because just like with Street Bender, I tried to land more strikes when we were working the cage than he did. Because that was the thing with the first Street Bender fight. I knew I was going to try to outscore him because that's what I would do at those sport tournaments since knockouts weren't allowed. And I tried to at least keep it 1 or 2 more strikes up on round 2 just in case. But yeah, I was definitely trying to set up my offense more and pace myself so that as he got more tired, I could open the strikes more because I didn't want to get comfortable throwing strikes at him too much either because I didn't want to. It's a chess game because even if you know that you have a better striking game than a grappler, if you get too comfortable trading with them, even if you're winning the stand-up exchange, all it takes is one, them to time you out and go for one good shot, and then you're in the world you don't want to be in.
No, certainly. I mean, it certainly seemed like you were a little bit more measured in the second round and also in the third round. But you were picking your shots. Like in the third round, you did throw that high kick, right? The infamous high kick that you send people to the shadow realm. And so were you surprised that he was still standing when you landed that kick?
Yeah, because like I said, I thought I landed it more with the shin, and I thought I put enough power on it to at least knock him down, and I guess I didn't. I think it hit more with the foot. I hit more with the foot. And I think because the ground has so much traction now with that red cedar on it, I didn't get as much spin as I normally would have. And then I failed to capitalize on it because I thought, okay, if anything, now he's going to want to throw the hands because that probably woke him up a little bit. And so I didn't want to like run into a combo and then get taken down. But I feel like I should have capitalized on it. And watching it back, I definitely had the opening to throw one or two more, kicks in a combo and then come in with some hands. So that's what happened there. That was the other time. That was the second major. That was the second major time that I felt like I had something I should have capitalized on and didn't. Watching it back.
No, I hear that. No, I certainly hear that. And so at the end of the fight, did you think you had done enough to win? Or did you think it was a draw? I mean, what was your assessment of the fight?
I felt like I had done enough to just edge out those second and third rounds. Definitely did not win the first round score-wise for sure, just because of the volume. Even though about half of those punches and stuff didn't land or were blocked, like I was squirming around a little bit. A lot of them missed. Some of them were blocked. That sweep and the initial takedown and the flurry of ground and pound, I think, definitely gave him more points that first round for sure. But I feel like I edged out the other two rounds.
Yeah. And so in the end, it seemed like you had given him a party message in the end. I can't remember what the exact phrase was, but soon as tell us.
So here's what happened. I had, me, I don't plan to lose. I had a victory speech memorized, and it was all I had memorized. And they put the camera in my face for like the post-fight, whatever. So I just threw out what I had memorized, which was you snatch teeth, I snatch souls, we are not the same. You must defeat Shang Long to stand a chance. Otherwise, it's a one-way ticket to the Shinigami realm. Because I didn't know what else to say. I literally had nothing else. It was the only thing that I could think of to say because I'd memorized it. I literally had rehearsed that for like the whole week leading up to it because I'm like, I got to say something. This is a huge fight. I got to say something sassy at the end of it. Just a little bit. And like I said, I thought I had edged it out and won by just enough to win by decision. But I can see why it was a draw. A draw was a good call. It was a really close fight. So that's what I said there. And just I try not to talk smack before a fight, and because I feel like if I'm going to say anything facetious, it should be after I've done something to kind of earn it. And I did 3 of the 4 things that I wanted to do in the fight, even though I didn't finish with the definitive win. I proved that you can keep him from taking you down, and that if you drag it out, he's got to go into desperation mode and try to just double down on the grappling because he doesn't have the wind to throw those hands that much anymore. I managed to actually reverse a takedown, and I managed to land a head kick because everyone was like, "Oh man, he's not going to land a head kick on that guy. He's too tall to get head kicked by Shinigami." The first guy was shorter than Shinigami, so that was why he got his foot that high. It was easy for him because the dude was shorter than he was. So I did 3 of the 4 things I wanted to do, and while I didn't get a finish, and I had 2 good opportunities to set one up, and I wasted them. I think I can definitely do it in the rematch, for sure. And I know we're both going to be training hard for it. I definitely don't really see, and I could be wrong. I'll find out. It's just like this one. We'll find out what happens when we get in the cage for the rematch. But I personally kind of feel like he's just going to try the same thing again because that's just what he feels works and what he's used to. And he's probably just going to try to work on a couple of extra takedowns and refine his takedown game to try to make it more vicious. But I think I'll be just as ready for it then as I was this time. And we'll see what happens. I mean, I'm going to try to be a little more active, and we'll see what happens. I'm sure he's going to try to be more active, and we'll just see who can put who out of their element more. I mean, that's really what it's going to be about is who can put who out of their element more. Definitely did surprise me, though. I got to give him props because I've never, ever, ever in my life seen him kick in a fight. And he surprised me with a sneaky little low leg kick, and it was just I wasn't expecting it. So I feel like he's going to be training his kicks up a little bit too for the next one. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, has the rematch been scheduled yet?
No, it has not been scheduled yet. I know we'll find out. I know it's going to depend on a couple of things. It's going to depend on our schedules, Face's schedule, because I'm pretty sure if Face is going to pay for him to come to the West Coast yard, I almost guarantee you Face and probably Wolverine and Bang Time are coming to Cali again too. So it's going to probably depend on everybody's schedule.
Yeah.
But I think it'll probably be within a month or two, most likely. I don't know. We'll get it sorted out because I got to figure that out too. Because I know within a certain amount of time, I got to defend my belt at the West Coast too. So I gotta get that sorted out. I got to talk to Face and Tank about that. And whether or not they want to prioritize the rematch or if they want me to go defend my belt at home.
Awesome, man. Well, any last words to all your fans, those who are watching, about the rematch, about this particular fight?
Thanks everyone for all the support. It was crazy going into the OG yard and facing down the hometown hero, and shutting up everybody who said it was going to be an easy win for him and he was going to just finish it quick and it was an interesting fight. It was a good fight. It was a good challenge for both of us. Still respect his skills. We'll always respect his skills. Definitely going to be interesting to see what happens with the rematch. Just make sure you buy the Heart in the Fight merch on their Teespring store. Go to my Teespring store, get your Shinigami merch, and make sure you subscribe to everyone's YouTube channels. My YouTube channel, Big Smiles, Heart in the Fight, everybody.
Absolutely. Well, we appreciate you coming on. It was great to actually witness the kind of the dream come true, right? As a young man, 11 years ago, you had dreamed to fight in the OG yard. And so it was great to actually witness it, to be part of this process, and love to see what the rematch has entailed for us all. And I'm certain that it's going to be a phenomenal fight like it was this time.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
All right, brother.
You got me up.
Absolutely. Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. All right. So with that, I hope you enjoyed the interview. We have Big Smile coming up. And so, it's always great to, talk to them individually so that you can get their side of the story, right? Because I think oftentimes if they're not speaking, or if people from Streetbeefs aren't speaking about what happened, people start to make up things, or they start to run with a particular storyline that isn't necessarily conducive to the overall model of Streetbeefs, the overall positive vibes that they're trying to create at each and every event. And so with that, I mean, there's always going to be a little bit of controversy that we kind of wrestle with and talk through, but it's always good to get their perspective on things. And so with that, we are going to bring on Big Smile. What's up, Big Smile? How you doing, my man?
I'm doing great, man. How you feeling? How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I appreciate you for joining the show and to hear your side of the story, because two of you went in there. A lot of us watched it. A lot of us came away with a number of stories, but it was really you two at the center of the story. And so it's always good to get your side of what happened, especially when we talk about like some of the controversy that happened and really try to kind of massage this out and then figure out, okay, well, in the end, we're still going to have a rematch, but let's just kind of go through the thought process of what happened. And so with that, you go into the fight with Shinigami. Before you answer the bell, what is going through your mind? You see the Shinigami's on the other side of you. What's happening? Like, what is the thought process around you before you get into a fight?
It's a lot of excitement. It's a lot of, I don't know if aggression is the right word. I'm not quite sure what it is, but just readiness to go and throw down, and even more excitement at this event. I was walking around saying, let's go, getting everybody hype. I was smacking the cage. I was really bringing some hypeness to it, and I was feeling the crowd. I was feeling the energy. It was exciting. I was feeling his energy. Like he said, he was staring me down during his his little shout outs, and I was staring right back at him. And yeah, it's a great thing. You can't get that anywhere outside of a fight. So it's truly like just living as much as possible being in a fight. There's no more higher power feeling, in my opinion.
Yeah, and what was also interesting about your intro is that you seem more intense in that intro than I've ever seen you before. And very similar to Shinigami, he seemed more intense. And so was it just the magnitude of the fight that was adding to the intensity? Or was it that you two were just in war mode and was like, you know what? Like, you're catching me at this moment, and I just want to send a message to you as you're listening across the cage?
There's definitely the magnitude to it was a huge factor. It was our energies playing off each other. I always kind of try and I get in that mindset. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to kill. And he was in the same mindset. So it kind of just has you to elevating, you're both in that mindset. You're both ready to go. So, yeah.
And so now they call your number. Both of you are up there. They say your names. You do your intros. Now they call you to the fight. And so he throws the jab. You slip it. You go in for your takedown. You put him against the gate. And as you're taking him down, you eventually end up on your back. And one of the things you said on the press conference is, one thing that I know about Shinigami is that I don't want to be underneath him. And so you find yourself underneath him. What was your thoughts as he was on top of you in dominant position?
I thought something similar. Like, I've told myself I don't want to be here. Shit. Sorry for my language. Sorry, I shouldn't have played it that way. Because he was going for the omoplata. Normally, I can throw my hips over. I almost get like a side control or a mount, like he was saying. He was hip to it. He was ready for it. He managed to reverse and come up on top. But then, I was a little surprised when he got on top. I didn't feel much of a threat at all. I guess he said he thought I might be trying to set up the triangle. I know he was talking about baiting too. I thought he was trying to bait me into taking the triangle so that he could stack past me. Because I know as a big guy, heavy pressure, forward pressure, BJJ type guy, I love it when somebody tries to put me in a triangle. It's like a free side control. Especially a 300-pounder, you have to get your legs perfect around him to put him in a triangle. So I wasn't planning on going for it, but I thought he was trying to bait me for it. But I'd also seen in his old videos the way he stands up there. I know he deleted them a long time ago, and he thought that I'd never seen them, but I'd watched them like a year before. So I knew he was about to stand up like that. So I was like, all right, let me just be calm. He's going to stand up. I'm going to reverse. And it did play out that way. So I'm glad I was able to stay calm, especially with all the magnitude of the fight. But, I just grabbed his head, grabbed his arm, didn't let him hit me too much. And then I saw the opportunity, grabbed his heels, bucked in, and took advantage.
Yeah, so it seems like you weren't surprised by it. I think a lot of us were surprised by it because he wasn't in dominant position, and then he stands up and tries to go for the footlock. Again, this is something that he's probably practiced a million times. And so for him, it's like, this is something that I'm used to and I can get a hold of. And so did you think when he grabbed your foot, did you think he was going to be able to lock that in, or you knew immediately, I'm sweeping him?
I was already going for the sweep, before I felt like he'd really secured the foot. As soon as he started standing up, I knew I had it. And kind of during the sweep, I was like, oh, maybe he was going for a foot lock. But I just knew he was standing up like that. And I know with like the power in my hips, if I get your feet like that, you're going down.
Yeah, and it seems like you did it with one foot too, because he was holding the other foot. And so you're able to knock him off. Once you secured his heels, you knocked him off with the one foot, you end up on top. And so it's like within seconds, like you are bombarding him with punches, right? And it seemed like you didn't fully set yourself up for it. Like you just wanted to rock and roll immediately. And so was the thought process is I'm going to take this all over. I'm going to ground and pound until the ref steps in. Like what was your thought process? How were you trying to set that up?
Well, like he'd said before, you know, they're not the hardest shots by any means, but they overwhelm people. And it's worked well for me before. And honestly, for a moment, he was looking a little overwhelmed. And Corey said something. He said, protect yourself or I'm going to stop it. At that point, I go to put my knee over his arm to pin his arm. I don't think I should have, to be honest. But normally I'm able to pin that arm with my legs. And that's when I'm actually able to land some shots. The shots before that, you know, they're bothersome. They might hurt you just because I'm really heavy. But really, they're setting up the later shots or the stronger position. But when I got my leg on his arm, he was able to hip over, turtle, and we had to move on from there.
Okay. And so now we're getting to the point of controversy, right? Because you're raining down shots. You move into different positions. And at one point, it seems like he turtles up when you start throwing the knees to the body. And you hear 30 seconds. 15 seconds later, Corey is jumping in. And so at that time, did you think the fight was over?
You saw me. Yes, I really thought the fight was over. No offense to anybody. I still kind of feel like in a way the fight was over. I respect them for restarting it. I don't blame Corey. Like everyone said, it was crazy loud. But, you know, I'm a fighter. We have certain mindsets. I still believe I won by TKO in the first round. Seems silly. Seems a little delusional maybe. But, you know, 15 seconds is a long time when you're throwing knees at somebody's ribs. 3 unanswered. You know, not moving at all. I would have easily thrown another 10 or 12. And he didn't show any sign of moving. Now, respect to Shinigami. This is not his fault. He doesn't choose when the fight's over. It's not necessarily the ref's fault either. It's a very situational type thing. And, you know, I did comment on some places like I felt I had won in the first round. I don't want to disrespect anybody, but, you know, I don't want to hold my tongue either and feel like I'm just doing what people want. I want to be honest. I believe I won in the first round. I understand it continued, but, you know, that changed a lot of things for me as well. I spent my whole break celebrating, dumping adrenaline. You know, I was really not quite myself after that. I was kind of more of a wrestler and like an O-line football player. It was a lot of just my old instincts, you know, driving my feet. I wasn't throwing shots. I wasn't finishing the takedowns like I should. And yeah, you know, it had a big effect on things. I'm okay with the draw. I'm excited to make it right, but I still believe I won by TKO in the first round, if that makes sense.
No, it does make sense. I mean, I think one of the you know, when I was speaking to Shinigami earlier, I made the observation that it seemed like you had spent so much time celebrating because you had thought you won. I think a lot of people thought you won because of how quickly it was stopped and the position that you were both in. Right, he was turtling up and you were throwing the knees, and so it seemed like the fight was over. Like I watched it live, and so I thought the fight was over too. I see you jumping on the gate. I see you talking into the camera. Right.
Yeah.
And in the middle of, I think, one of the lines you were saying, they stopped you and told you, no, that wasn't the end of the fight. That was the end of the round. Now, what is your mindset at that point? Like, what is going through your mind?
A lot of confusion. You know, I'm going to say this. I don't want anyone to take it the wrong way. In the moment, and still a little now. I felt like something was taken from me. Now, I don't think any individual person took it from me. I don't think anyone intentionally took it from me. It's more of a situational thing, right? The crowd, somebody said it was time. There was at least 15 seconds left. And I believe I was in the process of finishing the fight. So, in the moment, I was a little upset. I was confused. And before I know it, they're sending me back in there for the next round. Now, who knows if this ever happens again, but I think it would have been fair to give me another minute or something, to be honest. I really gassed myself out celebrating when I don't think it was necessarily my fault, because it was my ring awareness of the time. I knew there was 15 seconds left. I'm very aware of the time. So I had reason to celebrate, because that's how it appeared to me. That's how it appeared to most people there as well. Now, I understand it's a mistake, and I forgive everybody, and I apologize for celebrating too early, I guess. I'm going to be more careful about that from now on. But I don't blame anybody. But, you can come home, your bike can be gone, and you got robbed. It doesn't mean your neighbor robbed you, right? Things can just happen situationally. And it's not Shinny's fault. It's not Scarface's fault. It's not Corey's fault. I don't think it's my fault. But I do think it is a little bit of a situation.
Yeah. But I think we also have to consider human error, right? Human error with everyone, right? We're all humans. We're not robots. And so we're not going to get things 100% correct. There was tons of noise. The thing that I did hear the 30 seconds, but again, when you're in the ring, when there's so much commotion happening, it's hard to tell whether even the ref heard it himself, right? And so it happened. Now you're into the second round. And visibly, like, I'm looking at you and I'm like, oh, he's tired. He's tired. And at this point, I'm starting to see Shinigami really set up his offense. And so what is your mind as he's setting up his offense? He's throwing short elbows. He's working the clinch a little bit.
Honestly, and I know it's not the most exciting, but I couldn't strike like I normally can. Something that happens when I dump all that adrenaline, it happened to me in my first fight. My grappling's still pretty strong, but my big old hands, I just feel like I can barely lift them. They feel really heavy. So I just need to be smarter about that in the future. I kind of played into the adrenaline. I use it as a weapon sometimes, but it can come back and bite you in the butt. And it definitely did. I got too excited. I got too hype. And as soon as that round started, I was like, oh man, like, I'm still fighting. Like, I was a little out of it. So it became very instinctual. I wasn't following my game plan. I wasn't thinking as much as I normally do in a fight. I was more going off my instincts.
And so going into the third round, did you think it was 1-1? What do you think the scorecards were?
So I believe I got a 10-8 in the first round.
Okay.
The second round, it depends. Streetbeefs isn't UFC, right? So I could see how they gave him the second round. I could definitely understand. He landed a few more strikes. But, cage control is a huge thing, as well as aggression. I felt like I was controlling the center for sure. I mean, I was running him into the cage so hard. I know it's not a who can push each other harder contest, but it is a factor, controlling the ring like that. So I think I had a 10-8 the first round. The second round is in the air. I could see how they could call it a tie. I could even see how at Streetbeefs they would give him a 10-9 because it's a little bit of a different fighting system than most MMA. And he was working.
Yeah, I agree. I think he was more active, offensively active in the second round. And so, for my estimation, I gave him the second round just because of that. I felt like he was a little bit more crisper. He was throwing some leg kicks. Yes, you were definitely pushing him against the gate, but he was able to turn you. And so he was doing some things that he wasn't able to do in the first round. And so it was just from that alone, just from that activity alone, I think one can give Shinigami the second round. And so say it's 1-1, but I mean, it seems like you're a little bit more technical. So it's a 10-8 and the second round is a 10-9. And so from your estimation, you're winning in the third round, going into the third round.
Yeah, maybe I'm thinking about it too hard with the 10-8s and 10-9s. Maybe I should think about it round by round, to be honest. I've watched MMA for a long time, so I always kind of look more like 10-8s, 10-9s, tied round. So here's how I thought it went. I thought I had 10-8 in the first round. I thought he could have won the second round 10-9, and then the last round I had a draw. I felt I was a lot more aggressive. He landed the one kick, but I had him against the fence. I was throwing knees against his leg. A lot of those are actually missed on the camera. I have him against the fence. I have an underhook, and I'm kneeing his knee, which it's damaging. And I was doing some foot stomps too. It's not going to knock somebody out, but it is points.
Yeah, no, it certainly is points. I mean, I even heard someone yelling, "Continue the foot stomps." That's how I knew you were doing them, because I heard someone yelling from the outside about the foot stomps. And so in the third round, like you said, I think it was a bit closer, but it was clear that you had, at this point, a lot more aggression than in the second round. Like you have recovered some a bit. You're able to push a little bit. And so when it ends, do you think you won the fight? Did you think you did enough to win the fight, or did you think it was a draw?
So obviously, I already thought I had won it in the first. We're going to leave that out for the decision. If you don't factor that in, I think I edged it out, but I do understand the draw. It sets up a rematch. It gives me an opportunity to prove that I did finish it in the first round. If I go into this fight and I do finish it in the first round, I think that'll make things a little bit more clear. So I can agree with the draw. I can accept it. I appreciate Face doing everything he is to making it right. I apologize if, I upset anybody, but, I spent a lot of my life biting my tongue and just following things, and I have a lot of regret from things like that. So from now on, I try to speak my mind respectfully, and I apologize if it did bother anybody. I love Streetbeefs. I think they do a great job. I just think things might have been a little different, but I'm excited to find out. So it's okay. It's all right.
No, I agree. I agree with you. I think a lot of things, I think it was a learning lesson, right? I think a lot of people learned that day, right? And so
Yes.
I think moving forward, I think what you all did in there was set precedent for going further along. And so I'm curious around just the judging system in general on whether or not, I don't know if the judges, if you have conversations with judges before going into a fight, because it seems like Shinigami has a different idea of judging, and so do you. And so maybe there's a way to streamline the judging process so that everyone's aware on how things are being scored, so that when you're going through rounds, everyone has a clear understanding on what the outcomes can be, considering they understand the rules.
I think that would be great for everybody. Have things as clear as possible, because things do change in street beefs. Knees to the head aren't legal anymore. Things change. So it would be great to have a little update. Here's how the judge is working, but that could change again soon. I just have to accept it for what it is. I'm excited to get back out there.
I think everyone's excited really around for the rematch. And so going into the rematch, you have some ideas on what you could do differently, or is it going to be the same game plan and then see if he can stop you?
What do I say? Let's see. So let me be a little honest here. Only the first round did I follow my game plan at all. And I still didn't stick to it as well as I could have. So I still have a game plan to try out that I really didn't do that much. So, I'm going to watch the tape, which I have been a few times, and I'm going to adjust, but I'm going to keep working on a similar game plan that I was working on and that I think will work. we all don't always have perfect days. I felt great in that first round, but the rest of the rounds I was kind of dragging. Maybe the second half of the third, I was starting to feel a little better. And if anything, it gives me a little bit of confidence that the two last rounds were so close, because I didn't feel myself at all. So the fact that I was able to hang in there almost on autopilot gives me a little bit of confidence.
Well, it's good to hear. It's good to hear. And I feel like you two brought us a classic fight, and the rematch can only get better from here. And I'm curious how well you do on the West Coast, right? Because the climate is different. As we mentioned before, like Shinigami had to deal with the colder climates. Now you have to deal with the warmer climate and drier climate as well in the West Coast. And if you fight in Vegas, I mean, I don't know where the fight's going to be, but if it's in the sandbox in Vegas, the cage is a lot smaller. So I'm even curious to see how that all plays out in that environment. So with that, do you have any parting words for your fans, those who are following you? Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you everyone for watching the fight. Thank you, Shinny, for being so respectful. I think after the fight, we had a pretty good time. I know he didn't want to become friends too much since we're going to fight again, but I think it kind of happened. I think we're buddies. He said after next fight, he's going to take me to In-N-Out. So I'm looking forward to that. I know it'll be business until then, but I appreciate him stepping in to corner Black Goku. It was me and my wife's 1-year wedding anniversary yesterday, and we both fought in the yard. So it was a wild day for me. It really was, but I appreciate everybody. And, all smiles, all peace. Let's run it back. I'm going to make it undeniable next time.
Word. All right, brother. We appreciate your time. Thanks for coming on and giving us your vantage point. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Daniel. Talk soon.
All right. Absolutely. Hey. All right. Well, I hope that y'all liked that interview. Even both the interviews, right? They both get to tell you from their perspective how the fight went, and hopefully that you gain some insight from their knowledge, their experience. But I will say, right, at first glance, it looked like the fight was stopped, and it looked justified, right? When you look at the footage, there was moments where Shinigami was moving. I certainly give him credit for that. He was certainly moving, trying to, survive the onslaught that was happening. And I agree with Shinigami when he said that every time you move, the clock restarts, right? And I'm like, oh yeah, that's a really great point. And so it makes it difficult because there's just so many layers to this. But when you're just looking at it from the outside, from kind of a viewer standpoint, you see Big Smile advancing to several dominant positions, ending with knees to the side. And so it looked justifiable. However, when I reviewed the fight several times after, in my opinion, I didn't see significant or devastating damage that was being administered to warrant a stoppage. There is no doubt in my mind, though, had that round went a few seconds longer, so say if the 15 more seconds were there and Big Smile continued with those knees he was blasting, I think he could have ended the fight, right? And so now, on the other point of contention, did the first round end early? From the outside, as a viewer, it does seem so, which is no fault to Shinigami. But again, I or any other person making these claims weren't in the ring. In the video, you hear someone yell 30 seconds left in the round, but that doesn't mean that the ref actually heard the 30-second count. Or even if he did, the ref could have done an internal 30-second count in his head. And so his reaction was the 30 seconds inside of his internal clock, which isn't rare. One might argue that it's rare in refereeing, but it isn't rare as humans make mistakes all the time. And if you consider all the elements, right, that it was yelling, and so when the ref heard the 30-second count, He probably start counting in his head, but depending on what all the action, and how he was counting, he could have counted a fast 30-second count. Again, this is all human error. Humans are doing this. We're not machines. Example, we all have technologies, right, that predict behaviors and outcomes that are integrated into our phones, our search bars, our web browsers, that you don't even have to finish typing up a sentence or typing up what you're looking for before the systems provide you with the language that you need to find what you're looking for, right? These systems collect million pieces of information every day to predict what you're about to say, predict what you're looking for or you're shopping for. However, there are times when these machines get it wrong, right? Their prediction mechanisms were a word off, and as a result, it lead to a faulty outcome. And as a consequence, you have to go back and correct it. And I assume that that's what happened. The refs' predictive mechanisms might have jumped in too early, right? He might have jumped the gun. And as a result, there was a correction that was made by SCARFACE and all the other judges. And so I think it's important when you really look at this fight is to consider all the factors, right, that could have disrupted someone's judgment, the noise, the shouting, all the action occurring in front of people's eyes, the positional advantage, right? That all comes into play. And so before you judge them as fighters or judge the fight or even judge Streetbeefs as a whole, as an organization, I think it's important for you to consider all those things that were happening. We're not going to get it perfect every time. We're humans. We make mistakes. But as long as we're making corrections along the process, we're going to make this process better for everyone, for every single fighter. Now, I know that this is probably not what you're trying to hear, right? This is not the answer that you're looking for, which is fine. But you have to acknowledge that that was a phenomenal fight, period. And one I would argue that deserves Fight of the Year recognition. But here's the beautiful part of this. There will be a rematch. So Big Smile has the opportunity to do it again if it was meant to be. But this time, it's going to be in sunny California. Instead of basking in the negativity, I want you to celebrate that Big Smile just won himself a vacation. Right? We can celebrate that, can't we? I know we can. So to both Shinigami and Big Smile, I want to thank them for giving us a classic battle. We look forward to the rematch. We look forward to the outcome and continue to support them as they want to go pro, but also support the Streetbeefs brand as we continue to develop and cultivate talent, right, that you get to follow and be part of their journeys. So if you like what you saw, like what you heard, please subscribe to the channel. If you want to sign up for a fight in Virginia at the OG Yard, make sure you're signing up to the Streetbeefs Facebook, because that's where everything is happening. And if you're in the Hampton area in Virginia, you can sign up for the Pound for Pound Street Beef. If you are in the Washington State area, we're not talking about Washington, D.C., but the state of Washington in the Pacific West Coast, you can sign up for a fight on the Scrapyards Facebook. If you're in Arizona, Las Vegas, or California area, you can sign up for a fight in the Traveling Streetbeefs West Coast Facebook. There's going to be fights every single month. And so there's going to be many opportunities for you to glove up and test yourself. In the words of West Coast fighter Fiji, it's in these fights where you learn the truth about yourself. And so until next time, make sure you put those guns down and raise those gloves up. Until then, thank you. Take care. I'll see you at the next Streetbeefs Live.
You solve it in the yard and we leave it. Agreed?
Any coward can pull a trigger, but it take a real man to look another man in the eyes, punch him right in the face. 5-star wolf pack. Step in the cage and I'm giving out work. Satan's backyard, you ain't trying to get hurt. I'ma bring the pain, you gon' get it to work.